Do you have the spiritual gift of shifting your perspectives, taking things that are happening around you in your external circumstances and making it into something positive? A growth moment, if you will. I don't like using lessons or challenges because it's a little bit more negatively toned. I call them all growth moments. We are continuing to evolve. I want to share a client session that I just had and the insights that we gleaned from that. She gave me permission to share so that you can have a new perspective about your spiritual gifts and understand them a little bit more. So you're going to want to save this video so you can come back to it in the future. When I went into her energy field, I said, what do you want to talk about? So this is also going to show you what a soul journey looks like in the Akashic Records. Before I actually get on Zoom with my clients, I do pre-channeling beforehand where I talk to their higher self, inner children, and different incarnations so I can get a roadmap of what they want to share with you. So when I was doing my pre-channeling, I went into her energy field and I said, what do you want to talk about today? And I'm reading from my notes. She said, waffles. I said, okay. What about waffles? And I heard that sound bite, I want waffle fries. If you've heard that on social media. I said, okay, what do you think the waffle represents? And we started looking at the tiny squares on the waffle, and she said, timelines of potentiality. I said, oh, you are seeing this as your Akashic records, which I thought was hilarious. Your Akashic records can look like a multitude of things and different chapters of your life. Sometimes it's a library, sometimes it's a river full of rocks, a rainbow, and today, waffles. And what is so funny, when I said that to her, when we got on the session, she said, oh my God, I don't buy waffles for my kids, but my mom happened to buy some for them yesterday, and we made them this morning. And I ended up burning some of them because the toaster oven settings were too high. And I told my kids, oh, that's okay. We have an abundance of waffles. There's more of them in the box. And so that ended up being a growth moment through the spiritual gift of shifting perspectives. Exactly what we were talking about. But that came from her consciousness. I channeled that through her own mind and imagination to reverberate it back to her. She experienced it on the 3D, but it was a lesson in her spiritual development as well. So I said, okay, we're seeing the waffle as your Akashic records and different timeline potentialities. The maple syrup is life force energy that you are pouring into your preferred timelines, highlighting as the sweetness of life. Her and I put on bathing suits because I asked if she wanted to go check out any of the timelines, like hyper specifically. So we put on bathing suits and we were holding our nose like this. And there was a pool deck on the side of one of the waffle squares, and we jumped into the maple syrup. And the song was playing, this might be synchronicity too, Splish Splash. Splish Splash, I was taking a bath. It's by Bobby Darin, and it's from the 50s. So we were standing kind of just in a holding space in the void, just me and her in the darkness. And she got a little anxious and nervous and said, I don't know what to do next. She is also a channeler and an energy healer, and I said that was representing you being afraid to do client sessions or your own channelings, meditative journeys of what if I don't get enough that comes through. And I said, hey girl, we're just waiting for the next scene to pull up. In this holding space, it takes a moment to reload through the gajillion timelines of potentiality in the Akashic field. And I gave her the example of when you're on your phone and it takes a minute for the internet to load and you're getting frustrated. I saw this comedian one time that was saying, our phone is a miracle. Like, how wild is that we're getting information from all over the world and it's going up to a satellite and coming back down to us? You can wait a second. That's what's going on here. Your higher self is like, let it load, girl. So then her and I were sitting at a poker table with one another. Me and her sitting next to each other, we're playing together, okay? And she's holding a hand of cards. There's a person across from us, and then there is the poker dealer. We're looking at the cards, we notice that there is a joker. Obviously, you're not able to play the joker in professional poker. And I said, well, what do you think that it represents? And she said, well, it's not supposed to be in the deck. We were dealt an unfair hand. I said, okay, What can we do to remedy this? So this is where we can either choose to be in victimization mode or step into our highest sovereignty and empowerment. What can we do to remedy this? And she said, I could tell the teller, and she meant the poker dealer, and say, hey, a mistake has been made. And I said, okay, well, who is the teller? Because obviously when you're doing channelings, everything is a symbol for something. And she looked at them and said, oh, the teller is me. You know those hats from like the 80s? It was like a green visor that you could see through. And her higher self saluted her. She said, why did you give me this hand? The life experiences that she has been through, the circumstances and the trauma. And her higher self was looking at her with a blank stare, not saying anything. Waiting for her to have her own revolutionary thoughts. And she said, oh, wait, I gave myself this hand. What if I can change the rules of the game? Because you as source in this scenario, you are the person playing, you are also the table, you are also the cards, you're also everyone sitting at the table, and you're the poker teller. It's all you in different perspectives. So in that thought process, you can change the rules of the game where the Joker card doesn't apply how you're thinking it does. So this is when I actually went on Google in the 3D plane and I looked up, can you use the Joker in a game of poker? And this was it. In some poker variations, the Joker functions as a wild card, meaning it can represent any card the holder chooses to complete the best possible hand. For example, if you have a hand with 4 cards of the same suit, and you also have a Joker, you can use the Joker to complete the flush. Now, after that, it had a disclaimer that that's for at-home poker games. That's not going to apply in a professional poker setting. And I told her that is symbolic of you playing at home being your own personal paradigm. Comparatively to the bigger collective paradigms that most people are living in, playing in like homogenized rules where you can actually exit out of the 3D and be playing on your own terms however you want to. This is where her spiritual gift and your spiritual gift comes in. Higher Self said, you help people turn their Joker cards into wild cards in their own paradigms. Now, remember, the Joker card is their experiences and the circumstances that are non-preferable right now. And I was giving her the example, I have made a living out of this myself. I had anxiety, depression, a lot of trauma, body dysmorphia, eating disorder, just a whole myriad of things. And I thought life was happening to me. I was in a lot of victimization mode, not because of my own doing, like, that's the hand I got dealt. So we don't want to bypass over and say like, oh, it's fine or whatever. Like it was very tumultuous. But I woke up one day on my spiritual awakening journey and I said, how can I turn all of these things into my biggest blessings? So I started a spiritual business and I was helping other girlies who were experiencing anxiety and depression and all of these different things. And in helping them, I was helping myself heal. And then I cleared all those things out. And now I talk about magic and whimsy and building new realities and psychic and development and channeling the Akashic records and different incarnations and all these different things. But I get paid for that. And I'm getting paid to exist and doing things that I enjoy and love and talking about my hyper fixations every single day like I'm doing with you right now. And it's fun. So I turned the hand that I was dealt into something incredibly amazing that is serving me and supporting me. This is what you're doing with your spiritual gift. You are teaching other people to take their circumstances and their trauma. How can you use this as fuel for your solutions or your desired realities? Mine was having a spiritual business. Yours or other people's might be completely different, and that's fine. Okay? But how are we alchemizing energy? That is what you're doing. You are an alchemist. You are taking energy that is kind of icky and yucky and dense and heavy and turning it into something that is bright and shiny and illuminated and rainbow energy that ends up supporting yourself or helping teach people how to support themselves by becoming their own alchemists in their life. What was so funny about this, as I was telling her these things, she said, me and the kids have recently started playing so many board games. And because they're new, we're looking up all the rules and how to play. And I said, yeah, that's your consciousness taking that example in the 3D and then turning it into a new perspective, and us understanding those things together in this session right now. And then she also said, I love polishing rocks. I like them in their natural state, but it's a wondrous thing to be able to turn them into something else. And I said, yeah, that's representative of you transmuting energy within yourself, or helping other people transmute energy. Sometimes you do leave things in their raw form, right? There are multitudes of personality traits and quirks that we have that were birthed out of circumstances and trauma, but they're not necessarily negative things. They can be wildly positive and make us so incredibly unique. And then there's other things within us that we do want to completely transmute. So you can have both. But I just thought it was so funny that she gleaned that from, like, oh, that's something I'm doing on the 3D that's representative of what I'm doing energetically. And I was like, yes, that's how it works. And so what I was telling her, and what I'm telling you as well, this is a sign of immense intelligence. For you to be able to oracleize what is happening around you and take away growth moments from it. Seemingly heavy or traumatic things, and saying, yes, that sucks. Not invalidating our feelings and emotions. Like, it can still be triggering. It's okay. But saying, I want to polish this up a little bit and make it shine brighter, and it helps support me in my endeavors as fuel for my manifestations. And then turning that energy into something positive in your life, your biggest blessings. But not only that, you're teaching that to other people. That means you are so incredibly observant and able to detach from what is happening and not make it mean something about you, and not falling into victimization mode. And then not only helping yourself, but helping other people by being this type of priestess of your own life, or priest of your own life. And these are shamanic practices. This is being an oracle. This is utilizing your channeling and psychic and intuitive abilities to take the outer 3D reality and mirror it back to yourself to continuously grow and evolve. And then you teaching that process to other people. How incredibly beautiful and amazing. You are a superstar. Love to hear in the comments if this helped shift your perspectives of your spiritual gift of shifting perspectives and helped you have a better understanding of what it is that you're doing for yourself and other people. I love you so much, and I'm wishing you the absolutely most magical day.